With my One Piece and Invincible videos being received well and fun to make, I wanted to drop another banger for you guys. With Thragg and Kaido being two titans in their verses, I chose to see what would happen if these guys collided. What's up guys, my name is Verdix, and if you enjoy videos like these, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I put out quality content like this weekly, you won't want to miss. Starting off with their strength, Kaido's AP can easily be scaled far above Continental. As back in Dressrosa, we were introduced to Chinjao, who in his past was capable of splitting apart and destroying continents. Luffy manages to overpower and defeat Chinjao in a far weaker state than his current one. This is not the only continental line of scaling, as towards the end of the same arc, Sai is verbatim stated to be able to achieve the same continental level feats as Chinjao. I don't have to explain how Kaido massively eclipses these characters, but this scaling for Kaido gets a lot higher than this, as Whitebeard is stated in the manga and by Oda to be able to destroy the entire world. The One Piece planet is heavily implied to be larger than Earth, as it has multiple rotating moons in its orbit. This feat is also consistent, as Whitebeard clashes with multiple top tiers using this power, who stalemate it. Then, after Blackbeard steals the Gura Gura no Mi, he clashes with guys like Marco and Law using this double fruit, who are strong guys in their own right and amongst the verse, but they are not top tiers. This all comes back to Kaido because he directly overpowers Law and multiple characters in that same tier of power relatively easily. He also could clash with Big Mom for 3 days, but I absolutely hate this feat, and it's generally the biggest outlier. Like, I swear they didn't even fight, dude. Nothing happened to them. Not a scar or a scratch, but Zoro in a few minutes could permanently do so. I mean, Yamato was putting scratches on him. This feat, like I said, cannot be used. It sucks. The most realistic thing that happened during the scuffle is they drank and fucked for 3 days. There's absolutely no reason you should be using this feat. Kaido, when getting serious, could take on a Luffy and put him down twice on the rooftop before he unlocked Gear 5, while in the process had to take on Zoro, Law, Yamato, Kid, and Killer, while also having Luffy come back up 3 separate times. When Luffy unlocks Gear 5, he can challenge him consistently, despite being overpowered by Gear 5's attacks. Kaido, when in his dragon form, was able to fire blast breaths that vaporized most things it came into contact with. But when he is in his hybrid form, what really makes his attack so brutal is that he can coat them with Advanced Conqueror's Haki and Rio, which internally damages the opponent, giving Kaido and other One Piece characters a form of durability negation, and with Advanced Conqueror's Haki, it's an insane boost of power. This is essentially the power-up of the verse and what can make or break you. Kaido himself kinda overhyped it a bit, I'm not gonna lie, but it's what he prioritizes the most during his battles. Kaido's power was even acknowledged by Rocks at a younger, weaker age. Rocks had only aligned exceptionally strong fighters into his ranks that can compete with Whitebeard's role-destructive power. In fact, Whitebeard himself was in that crew and acknowledged by Kaido as the quote-unquote only man that could kill him. The reason I put this in quotes is because he didn't know how many strong fighters there were out there besides the one he has met before, hence why Shanks scared him back home. But my point is that Kaido and all these other top tiers are in the same threshold of power, being so that they can fight each other. The last noticeable feat for Kaido is Flaming Bagua, which is where he coats himself in fire and Advanced Conqueror's Haki and charges at his opponents. But all we know about it is that it wasn't able to overpower Berger Gun at the end of Wano. Ultimately, Kaido has large planetary level AP at the consistent end. Thragg's scaling is pretty much upscaling from almost everybody within the verse. This guy, whenever he fights, just one-shots most opponents with relative ease. The first time we were introduced to him, he was tanking punches from Mark that could injure Conquest, and even states that Conquest feared him. In the process, he one-shot Oliver, which will not be his only time doing such. At the end of the battle, Thragg would effortlessly kill Thaddeus and solo everyone in the coalition. The most impressive feat in this instance was not him 2v1ing both Mark and Nolan, but throwing Battle Beast out of his way with ease. We will get into Battle Beast very soon, but this is a very impressive feat. He was also going to kill both Mark and Nolan if not for the Viltrumites wanting to preserve their numbers. When fighting Dinosaurus, he was able to easily overpower him by hitting him with elbows and chucking him. He also, in this badass brutal fashion he always does things in, rips apart his mouth and breaks his jaw. Yeah, the dude is vicious if you couldn't tell. When fighting Nolan again in space, this was a bit closer than their first fight they had after the destruction of Planet Viltrum. However, Thragg was on the clear edge of victory and was going to kill Nolan if not for the Viltrumites saving him again. We don't see Thragg for a while after this, but the next time we do, it's in his battle against Battle Beast, which was a 3-day fight that had them going back and forth with one another, and even after Ragnar's being dropped and damaging Thragg at the beginning of their fight, Thragg, due to his healing factor, is able to endure this and multiple of Battle Beast's attacks, and at the end of the fight was able to overpower him. Later on, Thragg and his soldiers would try to take out Mark and his family, where Oliver steps in to help and gets one-shotted and killed. The same thing almost happens to Mark as he gets easily ripped apart by Thragg. In his final moments, Thragg was able to kill Nolan and battle Mark in the fucking sun. I genuinely believe that during this point, Thragg was stronger than Mark, and I think this is made clear by the amount of help Mark is getting throughout this fight. Another thing is, I know Mark was fighting Thragg's soldiers before this, but I would say that this isn't as tough of a fight as fighting Nolan, while also swinging around Ragnar's like a fucking yo-yo. It's only because of Robot's suit that Mark wasn't falling into the center of the sun before Thragg did, as it took some blows for Mark from both Thragg and the sun's insane heat. Their fight is literally affecting the sun, and it's making it shoot rays out that they kinda tank, to be honest, and they can fight inside its core. Like I said, if not for the insane amount of help Mark had, Thragg would have won the fight. Reminder that at the end, Mark was going to die and accepted his fate, and if not for Alan, he would have died with Thragg. I would give Thragg around large planetary to where I more so believe small star level AP. When it comes to speed, One Piece characters, especially Kaido, far eclipse light speed, as back in Thriller Bark, Kuma was able to fire his pad cannons that are stated to fire at the speed of light, yet Zoro, even before the time skip, is able to dodge these attacks, and after going through a 2-year training arc, Luffy is able to dodge light speed beams from the Pacifista and call them too slow. Luffy, after going through the rest of the New World, gets multiple speed amps, and with his gears, he can amplify those speeds and get up to around that massively faster than light territory. Multiple characters like Doflamingo and Katakuri required him to go insanely faster than his previous speeds, and when he got to Wano, Kaido was able to blitz him even while being in base. When Luffy goes through a massive training arc in Udon, he gets insanely faster, and even when he uses forms like Snake Man in Gear 5, Kaido is able to keep up with him in speed. Kaido is able to move faster than Luffy's Future Sight and can even use Future Sight himself to avoid and land attacks. This speed is consistent throughout his travel, combat, and reaction speeds in that MFTL, or massively faster than a light tier. Thragg and the rest of the Viltrumites all have pretty similar lines of speed scaling. We know characters like beginning of series Nolan can move across space into another galaxy within a week. This feat requires massively faster than light speeds to achieve. Characters like Alan can avoid the Viltrumite ships that move a lot faster than Nolan did through the galaxy. Thragg eclipses this version of Alan in every stat, especially speed. When Alan and Oliver attempted to release the Scourge virus on Earth, Thragg was able to fly into Earth's orbit and catch Mark before anyone could react. He kind of blitzed everybody there. Alan at this point in the series was no pushover either, as he consistently overpowered Omni-Man literally right before this and did the same to Mark. Thragg, like I said, flew into the orbit before Alan could react, and during the end of the series, during Mark and Thragg's battle, they were able to travel into the core of the sun in seconds. This travel and reaction speed is very consistent, as is his combat speed. The dude punches faster than any character can react to. I would say Thragg is most definitely on that massively faster than light plus tier. Kaido's durability is one of the most impressive in the verse. I mean, this is not a hot take whatsoever, as even after beating Katakuri, Luffy couldn't put a single ounce of damage onto Kaido at the beginning of Wano. Kaido doesn't even take damage in base until Luffy uses Red Rock, when the fight on the rooftop begins. However, it's not until Zoro uses Ashura that Kaido in his hybrid form is able to be seriously damaged, but he's able to endure this attack along with some blows from Yamato that do damage onto him, and still fight off pre-Gear 5 Luffy. His stamina does help his durability and endurance out, as you can tell, and once Luffy begins using Advanced Conqueror's Haki, that's when we see the limits of Kaido's endurance, as after taking the blows from Yamato and Zoro, he was taking Advanced Conqueror's Haki attacks from Luffy in every form he had to offer, and then still had enough stamina to fight Gear 5 off for a bit. These Gear 5 attacks are messing up Kaido, as every hit he gets more and more dazed from until he's eventually put down by Luffy. Kaido ultimately shares the same scaling his AP does for his endurance at that planetary level tier. Thragg's durability is insane. The dude has multiple heavy hitters fail to do damage to him when they attack. His Viltrumite healing ability will definitely come into a factor against Kaido to help him tank hits. In his battle against Thragg in both issue 75 and 132, Mark was failing to apply damage to him and was literally ripped apart by him. In issue 75, he was taking multiple punches from Mark that was fresh off beating Conquest and lets them know Conquest feared him. Later on, Mark and Nolan, like I stated earlier, couldn't apply damage to this guy despite being pretty deep into the series. In 132, this was a Mark that was granted a bit rusty, but still was years off from his successful battle against Conquest. It's not like Mark got much weaker in this time off. He was still deemed a threat by Thragg and able to kill his soldiers with ease. Dinosaurus' teeth busted apart completely when trying to bite Thragg's skull. Even when he swipes at him, his claws are being torn apart. There are only 2 instances in the story where Thragg is actually being beaten, and the first is when he gets jumped by the Viltrumites after his fight with Nolan. I would say that he did just fight Omni-Man before this, but Nolan stops the Viltrumites from killing him and saves him. The other is when he fights Mark at the end of the series, and in this fight, he can withstand the effects of the sun melting his skin and continue to fight off Mark before succumbing to the attacks and the heat. And to top this all off, he is capable of healing himself as the fight goes on. You also cannot forget about his battle with Battle Beast, where he took on multiple life-threatening attacks and was able to endure and fight Battle Beast for 3 days and come out on top. Like I said in the strength section, this guy was stronger than Mark during this fight and only lost due to the amount of help Mark had. All in all, Thragg has around small star level endurance. So the time has come to answer the question, who wins, Thragg or Kaido? Well, it really comes down to Thragg's insane power and endurance. While they will be able to keep up with each other, Thragg also has a bit of a speed edge in my opinion. Kaido's abilities won't help him too much here either, as most of them are blunt attacks. Even if he shoots a blast breath at Thragg, this is the same guy that was tanking bursts from the sun's core while being hit by Mark. With characters like Conquest, you could argue that these Rio or Dur-Neg attacks would be effective, cause they definitely will be, but this is Thragg we are talking about, not Conquest. The guy is resisting his body being melted away and being hit by Mark simultaneously, while still having more than enough power to fight back and heal himself. And while Future Sight is also an argument to stack on top of Rio, we see how characters of certain speeds can move faster than Future Sight. A lot of Kaido's attacks will be dull onto Thragg, while Thragg's attacks will be brutal. However, Kaido's raw durability will help him endure hits from Thragg before eventually being taken out. Even characters like Dinosaurus have very durable skin, but are still no match for Thragg. Dinosaurus was a problem for Mark to damage even after both of his battles with Conquest, yet is being easily damaged by Thragg. If you look at the way they both fight, Kaido beats people to death with his club that usually takes some time, while Thragg is effortlessly tearing apart limbs and instantly going in for the kill. With the advantage in AP, Thragg will also be able to produce hits that Kaido will not be able to endure, as Luffy in Gear 5 was having Kaido dazed with almost every attack he landed onto him. Even if Kaido were to use Flaming Bagua, with Thragg withstanding the heat from the sun, he will be able to withstand the fire, and like I already pointed out, he is simply stronger than Kaido and would be able to overpower this attack. Thragg is also not an idiot, he could just avoid this attack head on and land brutal hits to Kaido's blind spots, as he won't be charging head on like Luffy was with Verjang Gun. Even when landing hits in on Thragg, they will be healed and Thragg will just become more pissed off. When it comes down to it, Thragg outscales Kaido, and the abilities at Kaido's display will not be effective enough against Thragg, and he will be put down and worn on his neck just like Battle Beast was. Give Thragg the W. Well, that's it for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps with the algorithm and is very appreciated. As always, shout out to Tiberius for the thumbnail. He makes quality thumbnails for me all the time, and if you would like some of your own, hit him up on Twitter, link in the description, as well as my Twitter at Vertex_ for more of my takes. And without further ado, you guys can get out of here.